Okay, let's see how fast we can go live tonight. See if it is up. It seems to be working. Let me check all the streams. Yes, we are live on Facebook, it appears. Let me make sure people are jumping on and that this is working correctly. Okay, it looks like people are jumping on. Just waiting for a couple others. Good. There we go. Just looking at the other streams. It seems like we are online everywhere. Wonderful, we are. Awesome. Let's see who's here tonight. Let's check it out. A Friday night from Queens, Toronto. I love Toronto. I've been there before. Boston. Hello, hello, everybody. Maryland, West Virginia, South Carolina, Michigan. Excellent. Southern California. I think, Long Island, yes. Yay, Friday night update. Excellent. Did I see I thought I saw Vancouver. North Carolina, New York, Tucson, Arizona, South Florida. Beautiful. My wife is from South Florida. Well, as people jump on, thank you for joining us tonight. Dr. Jason Dean, Revolution Network. And tonight we're just going to talk about healthcare because it is the most insane thing I've ever seen in regards to health. And I will be very, very unfiltered when it comes to healthcare tonight because you have been completely and utterly lied to when it comes to healthcare. Now, let's set up the stage for how we're going to chat about this. So, as you know, this was yesterday that the president said a couple things that turned the media and politicians completely upside down. And now, let me first make a statement regarding politics. A lot of you think that no matter what the president says, the Democrats, the deep state, the media, they will say the exact opposite because they can't stand him that much. That's actually not completely true because in previous years, you've had other presidents who have said things and they weren't necessarily always attacked. Why is that? Well, because the two sides used to play back and forth. If you talk about the Obamas, you talk about the Bushes, the Clintons, and all the way back up to Kennedy, all of those presidents were still playing behind the scenes with the other party because it's one big party. The reason why the president is trying to be destroyed by the mainstream media, the left, the liberals, the deep state, etc., is not because he's a Republican. It's because he's actually trying to get something accomplished in this disaster that we now know is a complete fraud. The deep state, whatever you want to call it, it's insanity. So what he said was he made a couple statements. The first one was he heard a rumor that being in the light and being in the heat could kill the virus or could make an impact, something like that, right? So he was basically saying light and heat could kill it. And then on top of that, the other big mistake, which they're going all over today, was now this is the other thing. I've seen some people out there who I thought were really smart and were really critical thinkers and really logical people who I don't know what they were watching, but they did not get his words correct because they completely missed what he said. He actually was talking to the camera and then he was looking to the right and he was communicating with, I believe, one of the scientists or something, one of the task force guys to the right. And he was saying to them that they were injecting a disinfectant. Was that correct? And that could kill something in like 2 minutes. He never said Lysol at all. He never said chlorine. He never said anything. He said a disinfectant, but he was discussing it with one of the task force members. So the person who actually started a lot of the Lysol rumor was Nancy Pelosi. She actually went on camera on, I think, an interview and said, or she was speaking or something, and said that the president talked about injecting Lysol into the bloodstream. How they got that is beyond me. Now, the other thing is, when he was talking about the light and the heat, Dr. Burks was losing her stuff on the side. Why? Because you might be seeing the President of the United States single-handedly destroying the medical system in front of our eyes. That could be occurring. Now, before I dive into the healthcare stuff, let me explain to you that what you know as quote-unquote mainstream medicine, and again, I'm going to be very blunt about this tonight because this is my wheelhouse. What you know as mainstream medicine might be one of the dumbest, most insane industries we have on the face of the planet. Now, a lot of you out there, and a lot of people who out there who aren't watching this, they take these people who run the CDC, the FDA, the NIH, HHS, all these different three-letter organizations. They consider these people to be brilliant scientists and doctors. Let me tell you what they are. These are people that are educated in academia, which has been overrun by pharmaceutical giants, pharmaceutical executives, and they are literally given everything to pass tests. Trust me, I know. I've been through doctorate school. I know exactly how it works. They study a little bit. They cheat on a lot of tests to get by because they have to memorize everything. And these people really have no clue what healthcare is. They are run by pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci are criminals. They do not know healthcare. They wouldn't know healthcare if it punched them in the face. All they know is they know how to play with chemicals in a lab. And that's not even science, by the way. Science is observation of something. When you observe something, you see if it works. If it works, you continue trying it over and over again. If at some point it stops working, that means you have to shift quote-unquote hypothesis and try something new. Until you get something that works so much over and over again, you can now use it. These guys do not do any of that. These guys are bought and paid for on how they produce science. Medicine is not science. Medicine is a corporation at work to destroy health, to treat you as a commodity so that you'll keep spending money on drugs and hospitals and surgeries and healthcare and all this different stuff, right? So people think that, oh, well, we have to go to the literature. Literature is a joke. So I know how to read peer-reviewed literature. Peer-reviewed literature means basically, so all these schools, these professors who get paid a lot of money, they basically could care less how they teach classes. Trust me, sitting in classes, you have teachers who care, and then you have teachers who really could give a crap. They have a bunch of PowerPoints for you to look over, to memorize, so you can pass a test to get to your degree. And most of them are sitting in basically their cubicle, writing papers so they can be put in prestigious journals so they can look good and they don't lose their job, and they probably get bonused on that. That's how it works. Peer-reviewed literature is basically a bunch of doctors or your peers who approve your work. It doesn't mean it's science. It means they've approved of it. The problem is those people who are approving it also don't know what the hell they're talking about. Peer-reviewed literature is only as good as the person and the people who are actually working on it. So you might find some decent literature in like nutrition and like chiropractic and things like that. And even some of that's garbage too, I'll tell you. I mean, a lot of the nutrition stuff out there is complete trash. Keep in mind, epidemiology is also... So this is the trick. This is how they do it. If you have to fill out a questionnaire to be in a experiment or a study or a survey, it immediately becomes trash science. Why? because surveys don't tell us anything. There's no actual objective findings. When you go through one of these peer-reviewed articles that are supposedly so great, there are a lot of unknown answers. First of all, who's funding the study? Second of all, do you know every single variable possible in the study? And most of you don't. I actually went through, in chiropractic school, I don't know if I've told this before, in chiropractic school we started a nutrition class. And nutrition class in chiropractic school was just as much a joke as it is in medical school. And we were given a study on, I believe it was how orange juice affected or lowered, I think, either cholesterol or blood pressure. And we were given the study, we were reading through it, and someone got to the end of the study before everybody else, and they said, do you find that it's a problem that Tropicana is the one who funded the study on how orange juice lowers either cholesterol or blood pressure? And the teacher actually said, no, that happens all the time. So in your opinion, if a pharmaceutical company or a company associated to pharmaceuticals or any other science for that matter helped fund a study or was behind a study, do you think that study has any worth at all? No, it's garbage. So in summary, these scientists and doctors are really mostly ignorant and stupid people trying to preach to you about how modern science has helped us live longer. Keep in mind, we live in a country where people are drugged on pharmaceuticals and in wheelchairs sometimes by 60, 65, 70 years old. But oh wait, they live until they're 90 and 95 years old. So we must have really great science because they live longer. Even though the last 30 years of their life, they're living in a wheelchair and they have zero quality of life, or they have early onset dementia or Parkinson's, or we have cancer and diabetes and heart disease skyrocketing, right? When you have 1 million deaths every year of just cardiovascular disease, your science is garbage. It's that simple, okay? So before I even get into what we're going to talk about tonight, you are seeing the absolute dismantling and destruction of a medical industry that is destroying you as a population. America consumes 80% of the world's pain medications, and we're only 5% of the population. America is not healthy. Our science has always sucked because it's paid and bought by pharmaceuticals and big medicine corporations. It's that simple. And on top of that, the thing that funds the whole thing is big oil. So you're seeing the destruction of medicine, I'm hoping, by the president pointing out that sunlight, UV light, and heat kill viruses because it's freaking true, right? So Florida is open the beaches. The beach is one of the best places you can go to boost your immune system because it kills viruses and bacteria and everything like, and all these immune challenges. You have ions in the air, you have ozone in the air, you have the salt water you can step in, you have sand. Like, nature handles all of these issues, and nature always has handled all these issues. The problem is they can't patent nature. They can't charge for nature what they charge for chemicals made in the lab. The crazy part about this is he talked about disinfectants today, and obviously the whole chlorine dioxide blew up, right? That whole thing blew up. But what they failed to know is, did he just play chess? Did he just play chess against the medical community when he talked about disinfectants? Because guess where disinfectants are? They're in vaccinations. So what he's doing is now he's talking about not injecting a disinfectant into the body, which he did not say. Go watch the video. So now they're going to rail against every single thing he says, and hopefully they start railing against vaccinations, because what's going to happen with all the information comes out about vaccinations, the fact that vaccinations have disinfectants in it on top of all the other garbage chemicals in there that cause all the problems that they cause. So it was actually quite hilarious, and now you can see where this is all going. So let's talk about UV light therapy, because UV light has been around for a long time. There was a CNN video in regards to, I think it was Sanjay Gupta and a couple other, and I think it was Anderson Cooper, who, by the way, Anderson Cooper is a CIA asset. If you don't know that, he's in the Vanderbilt family. He is purely MK Ultra. He has zero talent in regards to what he does. He fakes and lies about things all the time. But he was in an interview. They were talking about UV light, and Dr. Gupta said basically, "Well, you would never recommend UV light, would you?" And the hilarious part is UV light's being used all the time, and it goes back to like early 1900s, late 1800s. Like this is nothing. This is not new. There's even scientific literature. You can go type it in Google, and you get peer-reviewed articles that come up. So the fact that these guys, have peer-reviewed, so they have peer-reviewed evidence on UV light, yet they won't recommend it because it's pseudoscience. This is how insane these people are. Okay. Now, UV blood irradiation therapy, it actually handles many diseases. Now, you're not going to hear from me tonight. This is my disclaimer. I personally do not cure and I do not treat disease. I'm going to put that out there now so that anybody who watches this video, whatever I say tonight is not me talking. What I say tonight regarding cure, heal, treat is from other doctors from the past and what they've said. So I'm just being very, very clear on that, okay? I don't need them coming after me. Now, Niels Ryberg Finsen, late 1890s, is the one who helped develop all this. It's 98% effective in things like, at that time, lupus and tuberculosis, meaning he was curing lupus and tuberculosis in the 1890s with UV light therapy. And you can go look all this stuff up. He actually won the Nobel Prize for photochemotherapy at the time. That was what it was called, right? So this was in the 1890s. He was so far ahead of the game. In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, Dr. Knott of Seattle, Washington, he was curing bacteria, viral infections, hepatitis, encephalitis, poliomyelitis, RA. He was doing all this. This was 30s, 40s, and 50s. So this was all with UV light therapy, which is amazing. 1950s in Europe, Dr. Issels, it was called photoluminescence therapy. And he was handling cancer in Europe. So this is all possible. In every single place I looked for this, it showed that it actually defeated and destroyed viruses. So the problem is the cell, each cell we have in our body, and whether you agree it's billions of cells, trillions of cells, doesn't matter. It's a lot of cells. Cells detoxify by giving off debris or cellular debris, okay? That cellular debris, which is waste, will go into the bloodstream, it can go into the lymph glands, etc., and it gets flushed out. It's supposed to be flushed out of the body. If the body is sick, that debris will actually stay in the system, okay? Now, on top of that, if you're really sick, the cell will actually have trouble respirating out the debris, the cellular debris. This is how Dr. Cohen talked about the actual, the viruses or the exosomes, okay? Same idea. Now, if you put the UV light therapy in, not only will it help the cell respirate all of this junk and toxins, but it'll also kill it off. So the virus, the fungus, the parasite, the bacteria comes out, and then that UV light therapy, along with the immune system, will kill it off. Okay, it's absolutely genius. The same works with ozone oxygenation therapy. Now, that is used a lot of today in dentistry. There was a documentary called The Root Cause, which was on Netflix, I believe. I watched it probably a year ago. That talked about the danger of root canals. Root canals are very dangerous, meaning when they're in the teeth, bacteria will start proliferating in the cavity. That will go into your bloodstream. That can cause cancer. Now, the crazy part was this documentary showed all that, and then the ADA, the American Dental Association, made them take it off Netflix because it was threatening their work with root canals. Root canals are terrible. We get people coming in all the time that have them who are very sick, and then people who think about getting them, we try to point them in a different direction. But ozone therapy, when they take these different, like a root canal out or a different type of basically infected tooth, you can actually get ozone therapy straight into that cavity, which will destroy bacteria, destroy viruses, destroy funguses, destroy parasites. So ozone therapy has been I don't know how long ozone therapy is used for, but it works brilliantly, okay? So I need you to know that. So these are the things that ozone therapy and UV light therapy actually handle. And it inactivates toxins. If you have toxins in your body, it actually can neutralize them. Destroys bacteria, destroys viruses. It increases oxygenation and blood flow, vasodilation, and it actually activates steroid hormones. So a lot of people have hormone issues, or people who are getting like topical steroids. If your body's working correctly, you don't actually need it. So what happens is they draw your blood. There's different ways I think of doing it now. I haven't researched all the ways, but basically they draw your blood out. Okay, once they have the blood, they actually treat that with the UV type A therapy, light therapy. They do that potentially a couple times. They put the blood back in you. Now you have that going throughout the body. They also have an IV type as well, which I have not looked that one up completely. But you can have this process done over and over until it actually floods the body, and it will kill off all of the systemic blood pathogens. So it is hilarious that they are up in arms over UV light therapy when this stuff has been done forever, and it's completely genius work. But keep in mind, the reason they don't want you knowing about this stuff is because it takes away from their pharmaceutical cartel. You have to realize that. And on top of that, he talked about the sun, right? Or he talked about light. The other thing is, we know that if you leave a pathogen like a virus out in the sun, I think it's above 80 to 85 degrees, it actually kills it in about 2 minutes, right? So why again are we being locked inside our houses for quarantine when if we all actually went outside, the sunlight would help us handle it, because we'd also be getting our vitamin D. Our liver could process all this, and we could actually start healing again. So I think it was Sweden. I believe it was Sweden. I'll have to double check that, where they didn't actually have any quarantine, and they overwhelmed their police force because they just all went outside, and they had no issues, very low incidences of the COVID-19 coronavirus. So this is how it works. You have to understand they are hell-bent on keeping you sick. And if you are playing into the game of medicine, vaccinations, or any other quote-unquote therapies they want to throw at you in the medical field, you are playing into their game just how they want you. You are worth millions of dollars in medical service to them. And then you wonder why your health insurance goes up, because you're begging for it to go up. We become a nation where we used to stay home and get chicken noodle soup and some water when we had a cold or a flu because our mother or grandmother or someone in the family took care of us. And we could knock that thing out within a couple days, a little bit of rest, we were good. Now we live in a society where there's an urgent care on every corner, and the moment you have a sniffle or a sneeze that seems uncomfortable to you, we run in, we get whatever medication they throw at us. Typically, they'll probably even throw an antibiotic at a virus, which doesn't even work because an antibiotic only goes after a bacteria. We take our Z-Packs, we go home, and we blast our gut with a whole bunch of stuff. We take a whole bunch of medications, and then we wonder, okay, it goes away for a little bit, but then we get sick every single year. And then we wonder why insurance goes up, wonder why we're paying for all this stuff, wonder why you don't feel good all the time. Because we have left our original source of health, which was taking care of ourselves and taking in good food, good water, getting quality rest. This is why we are faltering. So I wanted to go through with you a little bit of Health 101. Now, I'm going to kind of dart around to some different, who I consider geniuses in the health field. I'm not going to be able to finish this all in one night, so I hope you guys are ready for probably a series on this, because really that's how you have to accomplish it. But what I want to expose you tonight to is not necessarily how healthcare works, but about the people and the genius and the science that you know nothing about. Some of you might know some of it, but you have been blocked by the Matrix from knowing the geniuses that have been around for at least the last 100, 200 plus years, and probably thousands of years, because quite honestly, they had natural medicine through herbs and remedies and nature figured out way before America, right? They had this figured out a long time ago. But chemicals, oil, and medicine took us over. So I'm just going to start with a few names tonight and explain to you what they did and then what happened to them. Because this last 100 years, the powers that be have suppressed this stuff in many different ways because they don't want you knowing about it. And now that we're waking people up, hey, let's go. This sounds like a good time to start doing this. Let's wake everybody up to what you are capable of doing with your health, and the people that put it in place, you just don't know about it. So you've heard of the FDA, right? So one of the first people to ever run the FDA was a Dr. Harvey Wiley. It was actually the Bureau of Chemistry of the FDA back from 1906 to 1912. Now, he did a couple things that they did not like. So this is when the powers that be were still like just kind of getting their roots into America. I mean, they had it before them, but this was the medicine aspect of it. So you've heard of a preservative called sodium benzoate. Now, when you go to the grocery store, you will see that preservative everywhere right now. Okay, that is all over the place. Well, Dr. Harvey Wiley, was actually an intelligent, ethical man, and he believed that it was a bad chemical that should not be taken in with human consumption. And so he railed against it, and he was not going to approve it. However, that's when he was removed from his position, meaning at the time, the lobbyists, there were lobbyists then too, they had him removed. Now, he did something else as well. He was involved with the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906. And this is where he actually wanted to remove and bar from going onto the market any coal tar dyes, which is interesting because we know about food dyes today. This is how food dyes, I believe, started. He also wanted all bleached white flour removed out of the market, and he wanted drugs taken out of soft drinks. Now, let me take those two things a little separately, okay? Bleached white flour. My wife always tells the story of paper mache. If you were ever in school, and I remember when I was in elementary school, probably very young, and we used to make paper mache where it was all wet and you put it on like the ball or you put it on whatever shape you wanted to, and then you put it to the side for a while, and by the afternoon, that sucker was like rock solid, right? It was a cool little model or whatever it was. And think about it. What was that done with? It was done with flour and water. So flour and water, white flour and water becomes paste. Well, guess what America's eating? They're eating paste. So they eat their bread, it goes in, and it actually mucks up like mud their entire intestinal tract. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but America is getting fatter and fatter and fatter because we're taking in not only bad grains, but bad flour and rancid oils. All right? You can read several books on this. It's all out there. But bleached white flour, Dr. Wiley considered a poison. Yet, it's still used today, and it was one of the reasons he was removed from his position. On top of that, a lot of people go, what do you mean drugs and soft drinks? Did you not know that cocaine was in Coca-Cola? That is very true. I actually had a family member who knew about that a long time ago, and they actually confirmed. And you can look it up too. It's actually, I think there's pictures out there of the actual Coca-Cola. I don't think it was a can at the time. I think they still had a bottle or something like that, but it actually had cocaine written on it. You can find some of that. Now, that made people very addicted to Coca-Cola. If you actually look in the Q and QAnon stuff, if you Google Q and QAnon, I think it's actually a Neon Revolt, Neon Revolt. He's an Anon. He actually writes about the Illuminati battle between Pepsi and Coke. Pepsi and Coke, the people that run those organizations are very, very much deep state. And yes, they put cocaine in Coca-Cola. It kept people addicted. Just like they put aspartame and artificial sweeteners in your food today. Why do they do that? Because it's addicting, right? Artificial sweeteners, aspartame, Splenda, Sweet and Low, all those different things, they are neurotoxins. They destroy your brain and spinal cord tissue, and they keep you addicted and coming back for more and more. They are very, very bad chemicals. They were also found in the Gulf War. They used it for chemical warfare. So there you go. Now, I also said something about rancid oils. When you eat bread or when you eat like processed bread, the oil from the wheat germ actually goes rancid, meaning it goes bad. So like if you go to a health food store today, and yes, I love health food stores in general, but they also have stuff on the shelf that's not that great. If you go and you take the different oils off the shelf, most of them are gone rancid already. You cannot expose them to light. You have to be very cautious. If you're making bread, for example, like some people still make bread, people who truly know how to make bread know that you actually have to make bread very fast, or the exposure to oxygen, exposure to the air, will make that oil go rancid very quickly, and technically your bread is destroyed. Like all the bread in the grocery store is all rancid. That rancid oil is actually carcinogenic, which means that it will or can cause cancer. So think about that as you're taking on your foods. Also, Dr. Royal Lee, who is right up there, who is one of my nutritional mentors, is a hero to me. He actually backed up Dr. Wiley's statements on the rancid oils, and they both agreed rancid oils are carcinogenic. So if you're eating bread today, you are getting rancid oils. This is one of the reasons oils are so bad. It's not that oils are bad for you in general. It's that rancid oils will tear up your system. Now, I want to talk to you about Dr. Hulda Clark. Now, this is a name some may not know or have not heard of before. And Dr. Hulda Clark is considered a completely wacky, insane, pseudoscience crazy lady by the deep state. I consider her an absolute genius. Okay? Now, she actually had a degree. She was a doctor, but she had, I think, naturopathic doctor. She had a degree in biophysics and cellular physiology. She was a genius, and you'll hear me talking about this a lot, which is parasites. Now, I agree with her probably about 95% on this. And the only 5% is not that I don't agree with her. It's just I have to do more research into it. I love studying this subject. Dr. Hulda Clark believed and basically proved, for the most part, that most all diseases were parasitic in nature. So I talk about parasites all the time. She had 3 books. Now, these were her books. This was not me saying this. Her books were, she had several books, but 3 of them were The Cure for All Diseases, which you can go find on PDF online. But if you're going to get it, I would appreciate, just from a standpoint of supporting the woman, even though she's passed, go buy it if you can, just because obviously it gives to her foundation, and I believe her 2 sons still run companies for her. The Cure for All Cancers is a book of her, and there's also, she had The Cure for HIV and AIDS, because Dr. Hulda Clark knew exactly how health worked, and she knew how the system worked, and she broke it all down. So she actually retreated to Tijuana, Mexico, because the FDA kept coming after her because she was actually fixing things. She also created a zapper. What is a zapper? I'm going to go to a zapper a little bit in a few minutes on what that actually is. But it essentially matches frequencies of pathogens in the body, and it will destroy said pathogen, because every single thing in life, including diseases and pathogens, have a frequency. And you can find those frequencies, and her and the next gentleman I'm going to talk about actually had all this science to go with it. And yes, there are bacteria, fungus, viruses, and parasites in all vaccines. Okay, so yes, if you're having vaccines injected into a person or a human, an adult or a child, they are getting those pathogens. They will sit there and tell you all day long that they're not, but they're lying. The vaccine industry is probably easily one of the most destructive, corrupt industries on the face of the planet, and that's why they're trying to thrust one onto you to handle this situation. Okay, now Dr. Hulda Clark was dismissed. Like, the FDA went after her. They said she was crazy. Another person who I want to point out tonight, who I've never met, don't know how he is, I do not care for him, I think he's a fraud, and that's Dr. Andrew Weil. So a lot of people know him. They think he's really great. I believe he's been bought out by medicine a long time ago, and he's kind of like, I see him almost as an Alex Jones of natural health, meaning he tells a lot of good things, but he really is in the back pocket, I believe, of the pharmaceutical type industry. So he's part of medicine. That's what I believe. Now, Dr. Clark believed that all diseases branch from foreign organisms and toxicities. And this actually goes back to also chiropractic. So chiropractic, founded in 1895 by D.D. Palmer, later developed with his son B.J. Palmer. And it was founded based on the body not being able to adapt to traumas, so like accidents, falls, etc., chemicals or toxins, and then thoughts. All right, so those are the three things: a fall or an injury, chemicals entering into the body. Now, chemicals could come from food, it could come from the air, it could come from medication, it could come from many different things. And then the third one was thoughts. Now, thoughts I leave up to everybody else because that is your own spiritual or religious path. But if your mind is not right, your spine alignment will be out. You will have problems with your spine that you need to have handled, but you also have to handle the reason why they're out, which is the thought bank up here, the ether around your head, your mind. Your mind is not in the brain. Your mind is outside of the brain, okay? Your brain is an organ, but your brain is very powerful, okay? Good. Now, she also believed that if you removed the toxins and the pathogens, the body would get well. She believed doing this through electric. So basically electric modes, the zapper. You would have the zapper. I will tell you, I know people who have Dr. Hulda Clark's zapper and Royal Rife's zapper. I know them very well. I do not use the zapper. There's a reason why I don't use it. When you take a zapper into a practice, you kind of are highlighted, meaning you're open for problems. And so the only reason I would love the zapper in my office tomorrow, but I don't want to take on any problems that I don't need because it's a very powerful tool, and I'm not going to go down that road and create more problems because these two were geniuses and they had plenty of problems because of this machine was so powerful. So she also believed that depression came from hookworms. Now, I want to explain something about hookworms. Hookworms are mostly in the south, some in the northeast. And I want to tell you a little bit about the population that has hookworms. So hookworms will not only give you depression, but they'll make you act very strange, very dumbed down, like low IQ. There was actually an article that was a while ago, and they actually connected hookworms to the south and the northeast, and they used a specific word, and they said rednecks, meaning basically they were calling them dumb people. Now, I grew up around some rednecks. They were not dumb people. They were just very street smart, very intelligent. They just weren't, diving into books every day and going and get, these big educations, but they're actually very smart people. The problem is if you tested them, their IQ would actually be lower. And so it's funny because hookworms are most common in the south, but then also in the wooded areas in the northeast. So hookworms are actually linked to depression as well as lower IQ and almost a like a dumbness type effect that we would think, oh, well, they're just dumb or they're stupid or that kind of thing. And she actually connected that a long time ago. And it's funny because now they're having science come out and saying that this is true when she already nailed it a long time ago. So very, very fascinating. Now, the last person I want to go over with you who is so important, and I'm going to give you some information on this guy, is Dr. Royal Rife. Now, many of you don't know that name. Some of you may, but absolute genius. He went after electricity for the body. He used something that would emit radio or audio waves to kill pathogens. Now, similar to Hulda Clark, but Royal Rife was the originator of the whole thing. Okay, now he has a book, The Cancer Cure That Worked. So remember, all of these folks were already going after cancer long before what they consider cancer cures or cancer industries or cancer foundations today. The cancer foundations today are a scam. The people that actually worked on this were the Rifes of the world, the Lees of the world, the Hulda Clarks of the world. These are the geniuses, the Antoine Béchamps of the world. So Royal Rife actually confirmed everything that Antoine Béchamp figured out in the 1800s, which was pleomorphism, that actual viruses, bacteria, parasites, they can flip back and forth. They can change. They can morph based on their environment. Guess where the environment is? In the gut, throughout the entire body. That is your environment, okay? Now, he used vibrational energy, or called frequencies. He said that every single species in life had their own electromagnetic signature, or basically an oscillation or frequency, which is completely 100% true. Everything has a frequency. So you need to know that because that is super important. Now, the crazy part was he had a microscope that he built that to this day has never been duplicated. Meaning it was so good that even today, with all of our great electron microscopes, they cannot duplicate or see what he was seeing back when he was working. He actually was able to basically amplify the view 60,000 times, where he actually saw living pathogens on the slide going about their business in the blood, which was phenomenal. And they have not been able to replicate his device. At the same time, viruses, bacteria, parasites, he knew that they were sensitive to their own frequencies. So what he would do was he would find the frequency of said pathogen, and then he would put that frequency into it while watching on his microscope. He watched it explode. He was exploding pathogens, including bacteria, parasites, viruses, and funguses. So that means that with COVID-19 or coronavirus, Royal Rife had a microscope that the FDA destroyed, by the way, that you would be able to see it underneath. He would have been able to pick the frequency of it, and then he would explode it in front of your eyes. That's the technology that we had, and they destroyed, because they would prefer to mitigate you and vaccinate you to actually handling the pathogen in play. That was mind-blowing to me. He was so smart. He also founded the first live virus that would be considered a cancer. So this is an interesting thing about cancers. Cancer actually is a form or version of virus, fungus, and parasite, meaning if you open up a cancer cell and you look at it, it actually is a virus, fungus, bacteria, or parasite. Now, going down that line, again, I am not telling you what to do with your own healthcare. I'm not your doctor. I'm not giving health advice. I am not curing. I am not treating any of that stuff. But in my world, if you have a tumor, right? If you have a enclosed, encapsulated tumor, what they want to do is they want to do a biopsy on said tumor. Now, what they do, how does a biopsy work? They put a needle into the bubble, they pull it out, and they test those cells. Now, simple logic, simple common sense. If you have a balloon of stuff and you poke it with a needle and you pull the needle back out, what happens to the balloon? The balloon could potentially start leaking, right? It could start leaking out the actual problem. So in my personal opinion, I think biopsying tumors, whether benign or non-benign, could become absolute chaos in your body. And I actually have patients who will talk to me and they'll say, well, because I'll explain to them the exact same thing. Why would you puncture a balloon and take it back out if there's something in there? Say there's cancer cells in there. I don't want cancer cells starting to leak out of a tumor into the body. Now you have chaos. And patients go, wait, that doesn't make any sense. The problem is the medical community, the cancer community, the chemotherapy community is not going to tell you that because they make a ton of money on cancer patients. I've had nurses who are cancer nurses, chemo nurses, who have told me to my face in my office that they would never, ever, ever undergo the therapies, which I don't even like using the word therapies because therapy should mean a good thing. They would never undergo the therapies that they give out and their doctors give out in chemo and cancer wards. So that will tell you exactly how dangerous that stuff is. She also told me that they use arsenic on cancer patients, meaning they pump arsenic into the bloodstream of cancer patients. So you have chemo and arsenic being pumped into cancer patients, and we're hoping that they get better. Do you realize how insane that actually is? And more people actually die from the chemo than they are quote unquote cured by the medical community of the chemo. I actually had a patient who started with me 3 weeks ago. She came in. Her first day in, before I even got her started, she had to run from my treatment room into the bathroom, and she was audibly vomiting from her chemo that she'd gotten the day before. And when I mean audibly, I mean she was literally audibly vomiting. It was bad, right? I think she's 30-ish years old, and we're talking about colon cancer. So I saw her today, and she wants to live. I'm helping her with her nutritional stuff. And she said today she decided not to continue chemo because she said it was making her sick. And she said, why would I do that if I go get chemicals pumped into me, but then I'm asking you to get me better with nutrition and herbs? And I high-fived her and said, let's get to work. Let's get you recovered as much as possible. So that is cancer. Royal Rife, Hulda Clark, Royal Lee, all of these greats knew about this stuff, and they were pushed to the side because deep state medicine wanted to make a lot of money off of you. Now I'm going to read a little excerpt from Royal Rife's biography information because I think this is fascinating. So this real quick paragraph will give you a little idea of the stuff he was involved with. It said, Rife then began beaming different frequencies on microorganisms to study the effect. What he found was that bacteria could transform into cancer-causing viruses. Rife implanted his cancer-causing bacteria into rats. Rife inoculated 411 lab animals with this virus, created 411 tumors, and then eliminated all 411 of them. He did the same with many other diseases. From here, Rife made the startling discovery that the bacteria could change into a completely different form if the medium on which they were living was slightly altered. That's Bischomp's work. In other words, Rife's cancer-causing substance was in some forms and in association with some environments within the body deadly, but in other forms and other environments benign. His cancer-causing substance could be changed back and forth from one to the other. The implications of this discovery are enormous. Rife's work demonstrated that cancer cells might be transformed to healthy cells again. Realize what that means. Not only that, he actually, after that happened in 1944, the Smithsonian Institute awarded him and validated all of his work. This was the genius of these people. And guess what? In this moment of waking up that we're having right now, these are people that you may have never known about because our system has effectively destroyed their work, destroyed all the tools they use. I'm hoping that some of this stuff was saved in the back behind the scenes and they have his microscope. But these greats already knew how health worked. And they were willing, and trust me, these people did not make a lot of money. They were not millionaires and billionaires like your pharmaceutical companies are, like your reps are, like the doctors are, etc. These folks did not make lots of money because they were invested solely in the purpose of helping humanity with their work. These people were not printing off peer-reviewed articles all day. They were not sending articles in to be written or read by their peers and hopefully they were approved. No, their proof was what was happening in front of them. They were seeing clinical evidence of people actually healing from what they have found. And these people are your true heroes. So in wrapping up tonight, because we'll have to go into this deeper, so I hope you guys want more of this at some point. But I am hoping that our president in the last day or two is beginning the path of exposing the medical system for what it actually is. And again, I am not against medicine in general. I believe that medicine can save lives from an emergency standpoint. There are some medications that, hey, if someone is born with a genetic issue, because that can happen, obviously, that someone might need to be on something for that for a period of time or even the rest of their life. But if that's the case, then they should only be on that and they should not be exposed to even more medications. And when lifestyle will handle 95 to 98% of all basically disease we have in our country right now, we should not be on prescription medication, a rising list into our older ages. Genetics only makes up upwards of 5%, and we know that genetics can be changed. Epigenetics is real. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he talks about it. He shows how you can actually turn genes on and off. So we need to walk away from the medical system as we know it and put it back to where it's supposed to be, which is a survival mechanism. If something happens, it's there to keep people alive in an emergency situation. But this, what I talked about tonight, is what healthcare is. And there's far more to it than this. Obviously, I'll go into it. But this gives you a little dose of it tonight because it is completely insane that they're going to slam UV light therapy and disinfectants and chlorine dioxide, which is in your drinking water, which will wipe out the virus that they keep talking about. And I'm actually working with a friend of mine who works in water treatment facilities. And I asked him about the UV and the chlorine dioxide, and he said, we've been using that forever. Meaning the media is complicit in trying to destroy America and the world and all the people behind them. So we have to be enlightened. I hope this helped you a lot tonight. If you guys are looking for the Rife information, I'll put that up. We'll get that all handled. There's a lot of information. You have to go diving for it. It is not mainstream information. It takes me a long time to dive deep into places to get all this information because it's only kept alive by so many people out there who actually care for the work. But it's genius information, and I'll do my best to get that to you. I'm going to be spending a lot of time probably on my website this weekend as well as emailing you guys. So I will get this stuff in there so you can see the info because I need you to study it as well. I mean, just the Rife stuff I have here is pages and pages and pages long. It's in-depth information on the actual science of how he did things. and showed people how it was done. So I will be happy to get all that to you and get you all handled. But we're running up on an hour tonight, and I don't want to take too much of your time this evening. So I'm going to look at a couple questions maybe here and see what we have. And I did not touch on news stuff tonight because I really wanted to hit on healthcare. But what I'll do is either tomorrow night or Sunday, probably tomorrow night. I might take Sunday night off this week. I'll come on tomorrow. I'll go over some more news related stuff so you guys know what's going on, and we'll get that all handled. And that shouldn't be a problem at all. Okay, excellent. So let me see if there's any questions. How does Lyme disease come about? So good question. Lyme disease started in the Northeast in Connecticut. If you look up Plum Island, but actually it came from a tick, but it was biowarfare before that. It was in the Northeast for the longest time. But then what happened is we started seeing it spread to the rest of the country. Now Lyme is everywhere. Okay, I see tons of it in Florida all the time. Because what happened? You have glyphosate. And not only that, but Lyme is not just the bacteria, okay? The other problem with Lyme is the parasite. So any patient that I've ever gotten better, which I have gotten Lyme's patients better and got them back to where they are normal, the only way I did that was I had to handle the parasite along with the bacteria. All right, but the other problem is the mosquito. The mosquito is also carrying it. If that mosquito injects into you Lyme, or the tick injects into you Lyme, they're also injecting fungus, viruses, and parasites. And those parasites will overtake everything. Those parasites will continue to take in nutrition from you. They will eat away at your system, but they will also poop out more bacteria, more viruses, more funguses, more molds, and then they lay upwards of 20 to 30,000 eggs a day. So you have to clean them all out of your system. The other reason they spread so far is because of the glyphosate poisoning. Glyphosate lowers not only our immune system, it lowers the immune system of our country and our planet. So it suppresses down nature's ability to fight back all of these different things. And so glyphosate has helped help spread the Lyme issue. Okay, that's where Lyme comes from. Okay, good. I'm going to take one more question because my voice is getting a little beat up. I've been talking all week a lot. No big deal. I just don't want to be coughing on you guys all night. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to do one more question. Well, how do I handle Lyme? I do it with very, very specific supplementation. You get a hold of me on that. I can help you. I have no problem helping with Lyme people. Okay. Yes, parasites, even Lyme is still in the vaccines too. Okay. Let's see here. How do you avoid mosquitoes in Florida? You don't. They're all around. You have to keep yourself healthy. Okay. There is no avoiding them down here. They're all over the place. But if you keep yourself healthy, you'll be less afflicted by it. Okay, good. Last question. Okay, good. Okay, what can be... I'm going to do this one, okay? This is the last one. What can be taken for high blood pressure? First of all, Lisa, get a hold of me. I handle blood pressure all the time. But what is the biggest problem in blood pressure? A big problem in blood pressure is a combination of things. One is heavy metals. Heavy metals always seems to raise the blood pressure. Now, obviously, we got to get your cardiovascular system working as well. But metals will hold things up. The other problem with metals is your body will try to get rid of them, but then it goes into the kidney. The kidney gets backed up. And a lot of doctors will focus on the kidney and say, well, the kidneys aren't working, so we have to give you medication for kidney. No, what happens is something's blocking up the very tiny, tiny, tiny microscopic blood vessels that are helping control blood pressure. You have several different blood pressure points on the body, some in the bicep, one up here in the aortic arch, but also in the kidneys. The kidneys are blocked up. We also see a problem when we have blood pressure cases is a lot of them are heading into kidney stone issues. If your kidneys are forming kidney stones or have any type of blockage from medications or metals, you will have a problem with blood pressure. So yes, I do help handle that. Excellent. Thank you. I hope that helped. Good. Excellent. I have a buddy on there, John St. John, who's also looks like answering some stuff. So I appreciate that. They're amazing healers up in the Ohio area. So let them know if you're up in that area as well. And guys, I will continue to look on this the rest of the night. I'll be up, but I'm going to head out now because we're on an hour. And I hope you got some information tonight. I hope you got some value out of tonight. I hope this was a good start to Healthcare 101, and I'm going to bring you far more information. I hope you like it. And do me a favor, I am going to put out a survey because I want to know what you guys want to hear about. I want to know if there's other information you want to hear. I am here to serve you and be the best for you and bring you information as we go through this next 3 months, 6 months, a year plus. I don't mind. I enjoy doing this, but I want to make sure I'm giving you guys exactly what you want. If that's more Q, if that's more healthcare, if that's more geopolitics or politics, I am more than happy. I love studying. I literally love research. My life consists of right now helping patients at the office, spending time with my family, and then honestly, building businesses because I love doing that as well, and researching as much as humanly possible about everything that's going on in the world, self-development, all those things. That is my entertainment, right? I don't get entertained necessarily by sitting down in front of a television. I might watch a movie here or there with my wife or something like that, or a sporting event from time to time. But I love doing this stuff. I love researching. And I know a lot of you are asking for healthcare. I appreciate that. I'm hearing you. What I'll actually do is I'm going to put together again that survey, and what I'll do for you is I'll break down healthcare into different things too, and we'll find out exactly what you guys want. But again, I'm here for you. I want to help you. I hope I'm of value to you. Let's go out there and preach to everybody now the new information we know. We now have awakened information and knowledge that we are responsible for. You are now responsible for what you heard tonight. We have to go wake up the rest of the masses, because if we do not, you're going to have more kids getting vaccinated and getting injured. You're going to have more people taking this new vaccine that's going to be coming out. You have more people, kids, being put on psychiatric drugs. You have elderly people getting put on lists of medications. You now have knowledge. You have information. We have to get this out to them, okay? That is your homework. Hot flashes, that is hormones. Get a hold of me. Handle that all the time. Pretty much anything you guys say here that you have, trust me, after we've been in practice for 15 years, there isn't anything I see. There isn't anything I haven't seen. I literally take care of babies starting from 1 day old or younger. And I have a 92-year-old woman right now that I'm taking care of. And I see everything from the common cold to I have cancer patients. So I see everything in between. I do chiropractic adjustments, and I do nutritional therapies to help take care of people. My job is I was not able to help my grandmother survive from heart disease, and I was not able to help my grandfather survive from cancer. So I lost both of them, and they were like parents to me. So my duty now is to fix as many people as I possibly can and not allow them to get into the situations that we're in now. And on top of that, show that medicine is not what everyone thinks it is, and that true healthcare comes from nature. We can work this, we can get people better, and we can get them back to healing and back to normal health. Dr. Jason Dean, Revolution Network, I hope that this helped. Somebody asked, do I have patients in other countries? Yes, I have patients in other countries as well. I have people that fly into my office too. They fly into Orlando and they come see me. So we've seen people from all over the world, including all the islands. We help a lot of people. But thank you very much. Friday night, have a wonderful one. Take care of yourself, and I will talk to you soon. If I didn't catch a question, please email me or message me behind the scenes. I'm getting to stuff this weekend, so if you don't get it in the next 24 hours, don't worry, I'm getting to you. Get healthy at drjasondean.com and message me and you will get me, okay? Guys, love you all. Have an amazing evening. Take good care of yourselves. I'll see you probably tomorrow, and I'll have a guest who knows a lot about water and is going to talk to you also about UV, chlorine dioxide, and all the other things that you can do to keep yourself healthy. Linda, I'll see you soon. Come see me. Guys, have an amazing Friday night. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.